Oh man, it's going to be a tough crowd. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Alonzo Bailey. I am the College Readiness Specialist out of the College Readiness Office in Prince George's County Public Schools. And I'm here today to kind of give you an overview and share some, dispel some of the myths and share some information around the financial aid process. Okay. First, my parents, how many of my parents are now faced with some student loan debt like myself? Any parents in the room? So as I go through the presentation, I am going to kind of cover some components. There's some new updates and changes that have occurred with financial aid, and I'm going to share some of those things with you in the short time that I have. Kind of going to go with the financial aid information and dispel the myths. We're going to also talk about the federal financial aid programs. The FSA ID, students should have already have their FSA ID already. Getting financial aid and determining financial status, cost of attendance, and we'll go into question and answers. Sources of money for college, of course, federal government dollars, state money. Isaiah will go into a lot of the state dollars. We do have an enormous amount of different grants and programs that you can access through Maryland Higher Education Commission. Colleges and universities have their internal funds. So there are a lot of funds that the colleges and universities already have that exist through STEM, through the arts, through STEAM. Many of the colleges already have internal fundings, also with the honors programs as well that you can tap into. And then there's employers and private companies, professional services. So myths about financial aid. My parents make too much money, so I won't qualify for aid. I'm sure we all have heard that myth. I'm here to dispel it. When you do submit your documents and you do submit your information, it's more about, not about who makes the most money, but it's more about who's providing the most support. So I'll go into talking about that more into the actual PowerPoint. But when we start talking about financial aid, I just want to kind of dispel some of the myths that are out there. Another one is, the federal government is conspiring to take all my money, looking into all my business. Sometimes we are looking to kind of, we're conservative, so we want to make sure we keep things kind of tight. We're kind of careful about our information going out into cyberspace. I know that that is a concern for some, particularly with some parents. I know I had a parent, if you're not technologically savvy, you're worried about your social security number. You're worried about a lot of your personal information being out. But the FAFSA application and the data retrieval tool and everything that encompasses this application process is secure, is safe, and the federal government has an enormous amount of firewalls that protect it. So just want to kind of share that information with you. The form is too hard and too long to fill out. So just to give you some information, the form has now been revitalized, but they've also created an app. So now they've learned that many of our students do carry with them their phones. Many of us are utilizing our phones. And so right now they've made some updates and changes to make the process a lot smoother. So right now they are finalizing the app process. I didn't want to share it with you, but they're trying to kind of tweak some of the components of it right now as we speak. I think they're going to initially roll it out maybe in the next month or two so that everybody can interface with it. So that's up and coming, just to kind of let you know that that's on the rise, the app. Another myth is only students with good grades get financial aid. How many of us heard that? Any students in here? Only students that are getting good grades will get financial aid. I want to dispel that myth. We have a lot of students who may be actually going into some trade schools. They will also benefit from taking advantage of financial aid. Those trade schools, journeymen, electrical engineers, those students who are going into the areas of masonry, welding, construction, they have a number of schools that will receive financial aid that will cover the cost for those students. Types of aid. Grants, money that doesn't need to be paid back. Federal Pell Grants are those grants that students will receive when students fill out the financial aid. They'll be sent, they'll actually list out. So let me share this real quick. Students and parents, before you even fill out the financial aid application, for students, the students should kind of already narrow down their schools. They're going to have to put their schools into the system. We want the students to kind of do their homework and their research on these particular schools, looking at the cost of what that college or institution and the expectation of what the cost is going to be. So they can have an idea of what they're going to be looking into as it relates to the cost of attendance. The cost of attendance for Virginia State University right now is at $9,000 to $10,000, okay? And that's split in half by semester. So when a student looks at that, they also have to look at not just the tuition costs, but also the room and board. So when they start listing those actual schools, they want to do some homework just to see where they are as it relates to comparing those schools with the tuition and with the room and board and how much that's going to cost overall. Types of aid, we also have students must receive. So we have a variety of different aids which are really related to grants. So we have some that are tied where if students are going to school, if it's undergrad or graduate school, if parents are looking to go back to school, there are a number of programs that you can take advantage of. One is the teacher program for those individuals who are looking to pursue that area. You will also receive grants and other support as well. Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, that also comes with certain packages. Again, this works in conjunction with the school that establishes the student aid report. So you're going to get a student aid report that will be generated. Every student must have their FAFSA filled out for the state of Maryland. I didn't have it in here by March 1st. Every student in the state of Maryland has to have that completed by March 1st, the FAFSA application. Also, in order to do so, in order to pull some of the state aid, you must have it completed. Also, I'm employing you and I'm extending this to you to get it done as early as possible. To complete the financial aid application as early as possible, because everyone knows first come, first serve. The money does run out. I'm not going to sit and tell you we have, the federal government has tons and tons of dollars. But that's why we press upon the students. When October 1st comes around, you need to get on that computer, fill out the application. And the first person and the individuals that are accessing it, because you got to remember, it's not just Surrattsville, it's not just Prince George's County. We're talking about the entire state that's going on this system. And so we want to make sure the students are really taking advantage of going on the site with the proper paperwork and documentation with the support of the parent to get this application completed. All right, talk a little bit about types of aid. So we talk a little about grants. There are several loans that are available. Loans are money that is borrowed that must be paid back and repaid. And most of the loans, all the loans have an interest rate on them. The direct subsidized loans are for undergraduate students. Most of the subsidized loans, they will actually freeze the interest. So when students are going to school, they're not eligible to pay it back during the time that they're in school. However, as soon as they graduate, within 6 months of the time of their graduation, they will be looking to pay that loan back, okay? That's the subsidized loan. Some of the direct unsubsidized loans, you'll find that for undergraduates and graduate students, some of those loans are actually accruing while the student is in school. Some of those loans also are after you've graduated and you want to go into a graduate school or to a graduate program. Those loans will also be paid during that time as well while you're in school. If you do a deferment, it will freeze it, but they also say that interest will accrue. But for undergraduate students, the students who are getting ready to enroll now, if you're doing a direct subsidized, which most likely you will probably get, they're most likely the financial aid office will probably afford you the direct loan. you will probably have a freeze on that interest rate until it's time for you to graduate. Does everybody understand that? Did I make that clear? Then there's the federal Perkins loan, undergraduates and graduate students. I spoke a little bit about it. No interest accrues while the student is in school, or there's a grace period during the period of deferment. I kind of touched a little bit on that also. Let me say a little bit about, how many of you guys heard of the Parent Plus loan? Any of the parents in here? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the direct Parent Plus loan. The Parent Plus loan, once a parent signs on this Parent Plus loan for the student to attend this school, and they fill out the documents, they fill out the paperwork, the parent is now saying, going on the paperwork, that they're obligated, based on the default of the loan, that they're going to cover the cost of that loan. Okay? I'm gonna repeat that again, so we all on one sheet of music. The Parent Plus loan, upon you signing that information and signing that loan, once the student is going to school, going to college, that parent is now obligated, also signing off that they will be paying on that information based on the student, if the student defaults on the Parent Plus loan. Okay? So I just want to make that clear that, I share that information with you. FSA ID. Any students have their FSA ID right now? Okay, everybody should have that. And does your parent have it as well? Okay, all right. So with the FSA ID, if students do not have it, and I'll send you this and we can upload it. I'm sure they're going to send you the information. I know you probably can't see it, but there is a link where you can access and create your FSA ID. Just to know what's required: email address, mobile phone number cannot be used with more than one FSA ID. If a student shares an email address with someone else, like their parent, then only one of them will be able to use that email address. Also, students, if you are creating your FSA ID, please take a photocopy of your password, take a photocopy of your username and information, just in case you forget it or you lose it, so you can always have access to it. Also, students, you'll be actually going through this process every year. This is not a one-time thing. After your freshman year, you'll be going back to financial aid to go back to make sure that your funds and monies are in place. So you'll be the responsible party to make sure everything is moving smoothly as it relates to your aid and your financial aid package. All right? This is the big day, October 1st. Now, getting financial aid. So some of the documents that you're going to need: Social Security number, of course, the possibility of asking for the checking accounts, savings, records of untaxed income, the adjusted or the Schedule Cs for those who are working. So there are a number of documents that will be asked of you or required of you upon filling out this information. Also, upon that, the eligibility, how you would be determined eligible. That's also the process, and how that works is based off, again, the cost of attendance. So when the financial aid is filled out, once you have applied to those schools, the school that you're looking to get your letter from, to go to, the financial aid office is going to prepare a package for you, all right? Then they're going to indicate, based on the promissory note, what's going to be added, if you're going to do loan to supplement it, or if there are going to be other scholarships that will be attached to the financial package for that student to go to school. All right, let me also say this. The FAFSA must be filled out, parents. Regardless, the student has to have the FAFSA filled out, because if they're accessing scholarship dollars and any scholarships that are available, it has to attach itself to something. So that's why the financial aid or the financial aid application is critical, because when the schools are preparing their packages for individual students, it has to be attached to the dollar amount based off the cost of attendance and then preparing it. So I just want to kind of emphasize that, because I know I've had, some parents who weren't really forthcoming to kind of do the FAFSA application. It delayed the student in processing, getting the information sent and done. And the student kind of forfeited some scholarship dollars. The student also forfeited some opportunities that could have been relegated based off them going to school. And mostly for this particular student that I ran into he was a student that was playing, he was a basketball player. So he needed to get that filled out. They were trying to work out a partial scholarship for him, but it was such a delay in trying to get the information from his parent that it almost kind of cost them, because you have to have the financial aid filled out in order for it to move the financial package forward. Does that make sense? A little bit about the IRS data retrieval tool. The IRS data retrieval tool is an electronic transfer of your federal tax return information into the FAFSA system. So they made it easier. So if you have actually done your taxes for 2017, if you've done your taxes for 2016, it's all the information is already in the system. So when you're filling out the FAFSA application, there is going to be a portion of the application.
The interruption will be wrapping up this first section at 6:35.
Okay, let me speed it up. So there's a data retrieval tool component that's in the FAFSA application. All you do is press it. It's going to state what year did you file your taxes, if it was 2017 or 2016. It's going to calculate automatically for you. It's going to do everything for you as long as you filed and you filed your taxes and you're in the system. It's nothing that nothing that you really have to do. If it's in the system, this is a component that you can utilize that speeds up the process a lot faster. These are some of the components that they've added to the FAFSA application to make it a little easier. I graduated in '96 from Virginia State University, and through my years, we always filled out the FAFSA based on paper. Okay, so the FAFSA application has been revised. They have evolved over the years, and now is a lot more expedient as it relates to getting the information out and processing the information. Now, if I go into my next slide, you have any. While I get this together, do you have any pressing questions or answers? Questions do you have?
So when you go in to do it and you have to put the school in, if your child has not narrowed down the exact school they want to go to, do you have to put them all at one time, or can you go add them back in later?
I don't know what that is. If the student doesn't have all the schools and they want to submit.
Right, so there's a limited amount of schools you can put in.
Yes.
Right? So if they know 3 schools they're interested in, but there's 2 or 3 others they're not sure about yet, can they put in for the 3 they know about and go back in later?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, as long as they put the ones, and I think that's why I'm emphasizing, if they know the 3 or the 4 that they want, what I'm sharing is to have the student do the research to really see and compare the tuition costs and the cost of attendance with that particular school too. And basing on also if they want to do early acceptance, and also if, based on also what they're going to be, what their major is too, because financial aid is one component, but their dollars are there. So there's a lot of internal funding that each individual school or institution has also. And so you want to be able to access that based off the student's interest or their pathway. Thank you. Yes. 2018-2019 FAFSA form tax information. The question is, can you choose to report 2017 information if your family financial situation has changed since your 2016 taxes were filed? You have to report the information that the FAFSA form asks for. If your family income changes substantially since the 2016 tax year, talk to the financial aid office at your school about the family situation or the family change. So what that means is, and let me go back, all tax information, again, must be submitted based off what they're required, okay? Also, with that information, you don't want a whole bunch of discrepancy, because then what the federal government will do, or what the FAFSA people will do, they'll send out what they call a verification requirement. Now, if they send a verification requirement, that means they're trying to verify documents that have been prepared and that you have submitted. And if they see discrepancies, that creates, you have to now produce more paperwork to verify the financial need of this particular student. So what I'm sharing with you, and I'm not consulting, but what I'm sharing with you is whatever they ask for, try to submit the documents that they're asking for, so that the information goes through smoothly and that the process is done in a very swift, manner, okay? Also, if you don't have your, say you don't have your tax information and you want to get your information, you don't have your Schedule C, you haven't done your taxes or filed. What you can also do is you can utilize your W-2. And you can do estimated costs when you put your information in, and just do an estimation based off of your W-2 of that particular year, okay? If you have not filed. All right, basic eligibility requirements. Student must have a high school diploma or a GED, social security number, US citizen, or be eligible for non-citizenship. And also for my males, they must register as selected service. Okay, they must submit to selected service. That is required. Also, be enrolled or accepted for enrollment in the eligibility program. That, again, can be any school or institution. It can also be a trade school or some other professional school. Again, financial aid is established based on whatever institution that tuition is going to actually be afforded to for that student. That student can fill out financial aid, not just for a four-year institution, but for community colleges as well as trade schools or any other professional school. Dependency status. Now, I want to talk about dependency status real quick. Students' dependency status is determined by a FAFSA question. So, what declares a student a dependent? At least 24 years old. A dependent student does not meet any of the criteria for an independent student and must report information about his or her parent. So most of the students, some students like to declare the fact that they are independent, but you have to prove with a lot of documentation to clarify that the student is going in as an independent student, okay? Most of the students are dependent. We already know that they're dependent on many of the parents. We know that the parents are ready to get them up out of here. They eat up all the cornflakes and cereal, so it's time for them to go. So we already know that we're trying to get them to move along. But in doing so, that they're still dependent on the parent. And so that's why it's very critical that the parent is walking alongside the student to make sure that the financial aid application is complete. The independent, here are the criteria for independent, to declare independent status. Student must at least be 24 years old, if not married, and a graduate or professional school, a veteran or ward of the court, an emancipated minor, someone who is homeless or at risk, or we consider an unaccompanied youth who is under the court system and receive support. So you can receive support if you are unaccompanied minor or if you're a homeless youth. I won't go too deep into that, but there are a lot of tuition dollars, and right now the state of Maryland will pay the tuition for those who are homeless and those who do not, who are dependent on the system or on a social service system to help them with the process. All right, there's some special circumstances. In situations such as the ones below, a student may be able to submit a FAFSA form without parents' information, despite being considered a dependent student. And those indicators are students' parents are incarcerated, student left home due to an abusive family environment, student does not know where their parents are and are unable to contact them, and the student has not been adopted. Also, the student is older than 21 but not yet 24, is unaccompanied, and is either homeless or self-supporting. Now, how is your financial aid calculated? As I shared earlier, cost of attendance is pretty much the tuition, the fees, the room and board, the meal plan, the total package. All of those are cost, and that calculates to your cost of attendance. So let me give you an example. Going to Virginia State University for 1 year, cost of attendance, including room and board, say will run $15,000, okay? Room and board, that's an example. When you split that in half, we're lumping that in as that's room and board and tuition, but they do it based on semester. So the 15 is really 7,500 per semester. 7,500 for the fall, 7,500 for the spring. Just as numbers, just as an example. When you fill out the financial aid component is based
Excuse me,
on.
interruption. At this time, we are ready to transition. Group B in the cafeteria, you can now move to the media center for the presentation on using Naviance. And those who are with Group A in the media center, please now move to the cafeteria to get information on the FAFSA.
So what I'll do, since she made the announcement, I'll make sure everyone gets the PowerPoint presentation. Also, it's being streamed live, so you guys can also get some of the presentation as well recorded. And I just had 2 more slides left, but it's fine. I will make sure you guys get the information.
I have a question about excuse me. Where he said something about making sure we get the information. We were late, so did we have to sign up anywhere or
Get the information
he
for.
didn't finish?
Oh, no. I have a Google folder, and so that'll be on our website. You'll be able to go in his presentation, Sarah's presentation, and then some other things that you need to be on the website. Hey, what's up?
You so crazy. Oh, I love you.